everyone?
How's it
All
going?
right.
We're coming in a little early from the music, a little earlier from the music than we usually do.
We
I don't know
are,
what
we are.
happened there. You know,
Yeah. But
thank
at least we got that music in the background, a nice little fade going on to
yeah.
bring us in. Nando, how are you?
I'm good. Typically I do like Ron Burgundy, where I just chug a full glass of scotch right before the show starts. And I'm glad I finished mine just before the music cut out early, and no one caught me, because that would have been very embarrassing.
You love scotch, scotch. You got to have your
Yeah,
scotch before the show, right? Gives you a
I
little
mean,
bit of an edge.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if not, I can't be charming in front of you people. I have too much social anxiety, and I'll just clam up and yeah. No, I need the
You're
need the scotch.
You're definitely the last person I know who would have social anxiety. You're like a social butterfly. It's pretty impressive. But maybe you'll show off some of those skills on the show today, where we're going to have Liz Featherstone on. She's a columnist and freelance journalist, and she will be joining us to talk about two pretty great columns that she wrote for Jacobin. One is about the liberal feminists who enabled Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, who just announced that he's going to be stepping down. And she'll also talk about why she believes Obama is the worst ex-president ever. So what's the argument behind that? I'm really looking forward to that discussion. And Nando, what are you going to talk about in your decode today?
I'm going to talk about housing. I've talked about it before, but I'm going to focus specifically on the homeless issue here in Los Angeles, and specifically in Venice, where I live, just where my neighborhood. I'm going hyper local for today's show.
Yeah, I think Venice is a really, really good example of just failed housing policy in California. And to be quite honest, like the rest of the country that doesn't really rely on funding for public housing. They just like to move homeless people around and then give themselves a pat on the back for it. I will be talking, what am I talking about? Oh, you know what? We're both doing kind of hyper local stories, but they
Yeah.
have national ramifications. I'll be talking about the wildfires taking place in Northern California, but more importantly, the utility company, the publicly traded utility company behind all the fires that have started over like the last decade, and they've been absolutely disastrous. Actually, last several decades, to be clear. But I'll also offer up some solutions of what we can do to ensure that we don't have a profit motive behind these utility companies. But before we get to all of that, why don't we talk about the latest regarding the infrastructure bill in Congress? So a group of bipartisan lawmakers in the Senate congratulated themselves after they passed a slimmed down version of what Biden's original infrastructure plan was. If you look at the details, if you look at the text of the bipartisan bill, it's literally thousands of pages long. You will find that there are many provisions included that amount to corporate handouts. The decode segment that I did several weeks back regarding asset recycling, essentially privatizing public infrastructure, is in fact included. They just refer to it as concessions, asset concessions. So the bipartisan bill is, in my opinion, no bueno. Okay. It provides some funding for some of the things that we care about. But overall, the bipartisan bill is not where our priorities are. It's the reconciliation bill, which will pass or could pass in the Senate with a simple majority. That means if every Democratic lawmaker in the Senate votes in favor of it, Kamala Harris can come in. She'd be the tie-breaking vote, and we could get the reconciliation bill passed. That bill is far better, doesn't go far enough, but certainly has funding for the priorities we care about, whether it be elder care, an expansion of Medicare, to the point where it covers more people and provides more coverage for things like dental and vision. So there are many wonderful provisions in the reconciliation bill, which is being championed by Senator Bernie Sanders. But now we have a little bit of an issue. And I saw this issue coming from a mile away. Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker, claims that she will not, under any circumstance, bring the bipartisan bill for a vote unless she has both bills on her desk. Because, I mean, it's the best way to do it. You want to ensure, first of all, I think separating, the infrastructure bill into two separate bills was a dumb idea. But, progressives do have some leverage in the House. Nancy Pelosi has some leverage if she genuinely does care about passing the reconciliation bill. But we're already getting some bad signs from corporate Democrats. So the latest is 9 Democratic House, they referred to as moderates. Let's keep it real. They're conservative Democrats, and they're threatening to withhold their vote in the House for the reconciliation bill unless Congress passes the bipartisan bill immediately, meaning, Nancy Pelosi would need to renege on her promise that she will not vote or bring the bipartisan bill for a vote unless she has both pieces of legislation on her desk. And so one of those representatives is Vincenzalez, who tweeted this. I sent a letter with 8 of my colleagues to Speaker Pelosi urging her to bring the bipartisan Senate infrastructure bill to the House floor for a vote ASAP. This bill deserves a straight up or down vote without being delayed by the reconciliation process. I have more details on this letter, some details or actual excerpts from it. But Nando, I want you to jump in and tell me what you think.
So the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill is pretty good, right? Like, I mean, it's not like what we would want here at Jacobin, but it probably is the most significant piece of legislation maybe passed in 50, 60 years in the United States, certainly more than anything that happened under Obama or certainly Clinton. And so, we want that thing to pass. We really want that thing to pass. It would be very good. And I guess the price that we have to pay to get that good stuff is this like awful bipartisan infrastructure $1.1 trillion bill. So it's weird because they're both kind of infrastructure bills, but there's two. So it gets a little confusing, but that's the price that we have to pay, this like awful corporate handout of the $1.1 trillion bill. So I guess the logic was like, okay, Nancy Pelosi she won't pass one without the other, right? Like, that's the sort of counter gambit. And the whole point is that, they needed to do this whole thing because they needed to get the conservative Democrats in the Senate to sign on to the reconciliation thing. So they got this other one. So that Manchin and Sinema and whatever can claim bipartisanship or whatever. And I mean, I think to me, the move is fairly obvious. If these 9 Democratic House members are holding this whole thing up, just call their bluff. I mean, they're not gonna, the president is behind this. Nancy Pelosi is behind this. Like, the business community is definitely behind the big $1.1 trillion bill.
Totally.
I just don't see them having the backbone to hold out. I mean, these people aren't. I suspect that they're not like the Freedom Caucus that brought down Obama and Boehner's grand bargain back in like 2011 or 2012. I don't remember exactly what year.
This is the Problem Solvers Caucus.
The Problem Solvers Caucus. Yes. One of my favorite caucuses. Right. I think it's fairly obvious, and then I think like, if there are signs that Biden and Pelosi start relenting, then the squad has to call their bluff and has to bring down the whole thing too. You need the mutually assured destruction here and see which side blinks first, because I reckon that the 9 conservative Democrats won't have the backbone. These guys are losers. They're losers. They're nobodies. Like, look at their names. You haven't heard of any of them. They're not gonna do that. So I think like it's a game of chicken and see which side blinks first. Yeah.
Yep. I think you're absolutely right about that. I wanted to first go to one of many videos. I mean, to Nancy Pelosi's credit, on multiple occasions, she unequivocally said what you're about to see in this next video.
I'm not taking up that. I mean, people want me to take it up. I think we were able to get support for the bigger package, the 3.5 trillion, because there was the other bipartisan package. And I think we were able to get the bipartisan package because we had the 3.5 trillion. So they are, shall we say, compatible, in my view.
So I say to Nancy Pelosi's credit, because that wasn't the first time she said it. She's been on the record multiple times making a similar statement, and she's pretty unequivocal in that statement. So I always feel a little uncomfortable having too much faith in Pelosi, but I also feel like if she didn't intend on following through on this, she probably wouldn't say it repeatedly. And so I guess for better or worse, Nancy Pelosi would be the first line of defense, but you're absolutely right. I think a more robust line of defense would be the progressive lawmakers who have signaled that they will not vote in favor of the bipartisan bill. They will withhold their vote as a block unless they also see the reconciliation bill up for a floor vote. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure toward them to cave, and we'll see how it plays out. But I do want to also, give you a little bit of what this letter from the conservative Democrats say. This is the letter they sent to Pelosi, because their framing is hilarious. They're pretending as if they care about working Americans. They don't at all, of course. Some have suggested that we hold off on considering the Senate infrastructure bill for months until the reconciliation process is completed. We disagree. With the livelihoods of hardworking American families at stake, we simply can't afford months of unnecessary delays and risk squandering this once-in-a-century bipartisan infrastructure package. They continue to write, and this is where they issue the threat, and I agree with you, Nando, I think this is hollow. We will not consider voting for the budget resolution, that's the reconciliation bill, until the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act passes the House and is signed into law. There are not sufficient votes to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill this month. This is 9 Democrats signed on to this letter. There are dozens upon dozens who will vote against the bipartisan infrastructure bill unless it's after the Senate passes reconciliation. And that's a statement, by the way, from senior Democrats who disagree with the threats issued by these corporate Democrats. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, all the political nerds and wonks are like rubbing their hands because this is, it's a game of political brinksmanship, and they love to see this kind of thing. But I don't know. The people that I talk to that kind of watch this thing closer than I do, because I don't watch it that closely, like the little ins and outs of the negotiations of the day-to-day things that are going on in the House and Senate, seem pretty confident that the big $3.5 trillion bill will end up passing. I mean, some version of it, maybe they'll do like some symbolic haircuts here and there, but that the vast majority of it will go through in some way, which will be interesting because I mean, it speaks to Bernie's power within the government these days as Senate budget chairman, and I like weirdly like it really could save the Joe Biden presidency, which is already like sinking fast. And and if they can do it in time, maybe it'll save the Democratic majority in the House and Senate in 2022. Although they might not make it in time. So yeah, we'll keep a close eye on it.
Absolutely. Well, Nando, why don't you tell us a little bit about our partner, and then we'll get to our decodes.
Absolutely. Well, our partner is Verso Books. And if you join the Verso Book Club, you get every new ebook that Verso publishes each month, as well as one or more books in the mail. All Verso Book Club members will also get 50% off everything on the website, including the Comrade Verso tote bag, for as long as you are a subscriber. All memberships are 50% off for your first 3 months. The Comrade tier is only $20 a month. And if you join in August, you'll get these 4 books. A World Without Police, How Strong Communities Make Cops Obsolete by Gio Mar. Investigative Aesthetics, Conflicts and Commons in the Politics of Truth by Matthew Fuller and Eyal Weizman. The Age of Precarity, Endless Crisis as an Art of Government by Dario Gentili, and new edition of The Origin of the Family, Private Property and the State by Friedrich Engels, with a new introduction by Jennifer Doyle. That's 4 books for $20 a month. That's $5 per book. Pretty good.
That's a pretty good deal. Everyone go check out Verso. I love it.
If you enjoyed this clip from Jacobin Weekends, please hit like and subscribe. You can also watch the full episode or catch any future live stream by clicking the join button below and becoming a Jacobin YouTube member. Thank you.